Lessons from a self-taught dinosaur tracker. Thanks to his careful eye and dog tracking, the number of dinosaur species known in Maryland has tripled. Do you want to hold a dinosaur? This is the chance I've been hoping for since I began covering science 2 years ago. Scratch that, it's the chance I've been hoping for since I was 4 and first watched The Land Before Time. I reach out my hands. Absolutely. Ray Stanford, a wiry 79-year-old with a slight Texas twang, passes me an oblong piece of reddish rock. He found it in a stream bed years ago, not far from an impression of a hatchling armored dinosaur now on display at the Smithsonian's National Museum of Natural History. This stone has the same knobby appearance. Stanford says it's the cast of a second baby, formed when the tiny creature drowned in a flood. I cradle the fossil in both palms, savoring its heft, and try to imagine Maryland as this dinosaur might have known it more than 100 million years ago. I can't tell you where Stanford showed me his fossils. His collection numbers hundreds of artifacts and is worth thousands of dollars, keeping him extremely worried about thieves. But I can say this, it's an astonishing assemblage. There are perfectly round dinosaur eggs and weird-looking blobs of fossilized poop, footprints of creatures that could crush a person, tracks of primitive mammals so well preserved that they might have been made yesterday by a raccoon. Though Stanford doesn't have a college degree and has never taken a formal paleontology class, he is arguably the most successful fossil hunter in the Mid-Atlantic region. Thanks to his careful eye and dog tracking, the number of dinosaur species known in Maryland has tripled. When most people think of dinosaur fossils, they imagine femurs the size of cars and terrifying, toothy skulls. But Stanford's specialty is paleoichnology, the study of the traces that ancient animals left behind, particularly tracks. A bone might tell you how an animal died, Stanford says, but its footprints show you how it lived. From faint impressions on ancient stone, scientists can divine whether an animal was walking or running, what direction it was headed, what other creatures it encountered along the way. When you study the tracks, and their action and interaction, you literally have the next best thing to a time machine, Stanford says. I've read enough science fiction to know that journeying back to the age of dinosaurs never ends well. But this form of time travel seemed safe enough. So, on a recent sunny Saturday, I persuaded Stanford to share a few of his fossil searching secrets. And now I'm sharing them with you. Conveniently for aspiring trackers, many dinosaur groups are named for their feet. Large, long-necked dinosaurs like Brachiosaurus and Apatosaurus are called sauropods, literally, lizard foot. Their back footprints are typically large and round, topped by the scalloped impressions of toes, while the tracks of their front feet look like those of elephants. The beast-footed theropods, a group that includes T-Rex and Velociraptor as well as the ancestors of modern birds, had V-shaped feet with 3 long, slender toes. Their tracks, if well preserved, often feature the sharp points of claws. The ornithopods, or bird-footed dinosaurs like the duck-billed hadrosaurs, also had 3 toes, but their prints tend to be wider and the outline of their feet more U-shaped. Meanwhile, the prints of armored dinosaurs, like Stegosaurus, are characterized by the arc of 5 blunt digits and the round impression of a palm. Dinosaurs weren't the only animals scurrying around 100 million years ago. Stanford also has found the webbed prints of pterosaurs, flying reptiles, and 5-toed tracks from primitive mammals. Those can look like tiny hands. One of Stanford's greatest finds, an 8'1/2" sandstone slab uncovered at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland, contains all of the above, tracks of herbivores and carnivores, reptiles and mammals, predators and prey, all intersecting and possibly interacting. Lockley, now a friend of Stanford's who helped him analyze the tracks for a paper published in the journal Scientific Reports, compared the 2012 discovery to the Rosetta Stone. A generation ago, people thought that tracks were nothing, Lockley said when that discovery was announced in January. They weren't interesting, they weren't the complete skeleton. But thanks in part to self-taught seekers like Stanford, there's been an absolutely huge renaissance, he said. Maryland is a really good example. Here we have a place where prior to the 1990s there were no fossil footprints at all, and then a guy who is an amateur, who is observant, goes out and he's finding them in the middle of a high-security federal facility. This stuff is right at our feet, and we didn't even know it was there.